Hurricane Sandy hit this island, 4 years ago. Came in, flooded up to the base of the Statue of Liberty. There were 4 buildings here, residential buildings that the workers stayed in. Water came up probably 7 to 10 feet. A lot of the damage was when the tide went back out and it tore everything right with it. So they decided rather than try to renovate them, they just demolished the buildings. Underneath the buildings was a small crawl space, and rather than bring in fill, they decided to save all the brick, block, slabs, and footings, crush it, reuse it, and put it back underneath the site. Eventually they're going to be putting a new museum here. My name is Al Cerra, Cerra Incorporated, owner, president. We came in, looked at the piles. We looked at bringing a 2650 in here, with a little bit too big, so we decided to go with the GT 125. I mostly use a 2650. She's a workhorse. I mean, she's a real animal. She takes just about anything. So we knew we put the GT 125 out here, we want no problems. We want this to go as smooth as possible, with no breakdowns, no nothing, and I'm glad we did.
Al called me, told me he had a job on the Statue of Liberty. We're an American-made company. We wanted to make sure we had a big part in this. He's brought us in. We had the right equipment and inventory to fit his needs. My name's David McLean with Penn Jersey Machinery, and I'm the crushing and screening application specialist. Getting the machine on the island was fairly difficult. Everything had to fall into place perfectly, from the tide of the water to the timing of our trucks and the ferries. We had to hire a private ferry to bring it out at the right time of the day. It had to wait overnight, go over a bridge overnight to get onto the Staten Island launch. Everything had to play perfectly to get this to line up to get done in Al's time frame of the 3 to 5 days.
From the barge, brought it over up to the ramp and unloaded it. It was a real beautiful day. Tide was high, so it kept us up. We were able to get on with no problems at all. What we're putting through the crusher is brick, and there was prefabricated slabs with rebar in it. Rebars were 10, 20 feet long. It's kind of slowed us down a little bit, trying to get through the machine. We had to pick through them, toss them off to the side. The footings are pretty nice. There's no rebar in the footings at all. They're hard though. You can hear the crusher when it hits that rock. It's a pretty tough one, that one there. I like the GT 125. It's got the low profile up on the top that I can see when I'm loading the crusher. I'm able to load from the side so I can see the magnet. In case something jams in the magnet, I can see that. And I love the remote. As I'm dropping material in there, I'm flipping my bucket. I can see if I drop a piece of steel, I can stop the feeder, stop the crusher, and go retrieve what I threw in it. The remote of the KPI is probably the best I've ever seen. Absolutely the best. I can stop that crusher, I can start that crusher, I can low idle, high idle, I can track it. Nice adjustment on the feeder. If I see I need to move it up real quick, I spin it up real quick, and I turn it down just as fast.
As Al stated, I think the remote control system on these is probably one of the best benefits to them. Being able to get up on top of a pile, look and see what you're doing, and have full control of the machine. The damage of these machines can come in a flick of a switch, and having that control right where you're operating and loading it from is probably the biggest thing I like about these machines.
I'd say probably the production is 750 yards of material, so it would equate to about 1,000 ton. 1,000 ton trucked off this site would be extremely expensive. They bring the roll-offs in, and typically they get 1 to 2 roll-offs a day because it has to come out in the barge. And by the time it comes back, it's almost 45 minutes to an hour ride one way to get back. And then the barge might be out doing something else. So they're paying a phenomenal cost for a dumpster to come back and forth on this site. Brought the GT 125 in, we probably just saved this guy probably $20,000 in really one day by processing the material. He's able to put it back down right in place, not have to worry about loading it out. If he had to take this off, it would probably take him at least minimum 10 to 15 days just to truck it out of here, because he could only get, I think, 1 roll-off on a barge. So it's big time savings for them. Real important for us to have American-made equipment. We bid on everything, and there's a lot of foreign competition coming in right now for what type of work that I do. So we like to keep everything American. I pretty much got rid of every European machine I have. Biggest thing was parts. They make everything proprietary, rollers, their software, all that. You can't get an answer out of them. It's just buy a new one. $5,000 for a new computer, there you go, switch it and change it. KPI, guy will go walk you through it. That's not the one, send it back to him. He'll reboot it, reflash it, send it right back out to you. That's, to me, one of the most important things. On one European machine, the guy welded on it and took the computer out when he didn't disconnect the computer, and the machine was down for 5 months. I actually had to call England and talk to the guy in England, and he basically told me, you got to buy a new one. That's it, she's done. So that's when I decided it was time to leave. Penn Jersey's been absolutely outstanding with their service. Dave McLean, the salesman slash mechanic. If something's out, Dave, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, toolbox out. I've never seen a salesman do that in my life. Dave comes right out there, jumps right on top of the machine with me, and boom, goes right to it. If I can't get to it, Dave's there. He's called me sometimes 11 o'clock at night. I finish it up, it's all ready for you, Al. And that's the kind of things you need.
Parts and service for us is a huge thing. The factory's been great. Being an American-based company, we can get anything pretty much within a day. I've worked with other products and foreign equipment. Parts and service were always an issue. Getting a hold of the factory when they're open, being the time difference, is a huge benefit to KPI. All 3 of their factories are US-based. Be it parts, service, technical support, they're always a phone call away. When we do talk to them, you're talking to somebody on American soil that you can understand and get the things you need taken care of quickly and efficiently. There's a lot of features and benefits to these pieces of equipment versus the foreign competitors. One is the simplicity. Everything is American made, American fittings, American bolts, nuts, everything from the frame to the jaw chamber and wear parts. I've sold a few other foreign competitors' equipment, and nothing was themselves. It was always pointing a finger and making somebody else the problem.
Penn Jersey's got quite a bit of KPI equipment in stock right now. We use the impactor, we use 2650 all the time, the GT 165, the FT 300 cone. I think the only thing we haven't had was the track stacker, and that's about it, but we have pretty much everything, and the GT 125 now. So they have a nice assortment of equipment that we can go from, we need something real big, we take the 2650, we get a job like this, we bring the 125 because it is a constricted area, plus with the barge, loading, unloading. GT 125 was an absolute perfect fit for this site.